we are going to be discussing is Moon Music by Coldplay. Moon Music. Full title is Music of the Spheres Volume 2 Moon Music. It's the 10th studio album by British band Coldplay. It was released on October 4th, 2024. It is the sequel to Volume 1 From Earth with Love that was released in 2021. 2 days later, on October 6th, a deluxe edition called Full Moon was released featuring 10 additional tracks. Today, we will only be discussing the 10-track original release, Moon Music. All right, Eric. I don't know if you want to start this one or if you want me to start this one, but I feel like we have thoughts on this album.
What was the first one to this, you said? You said this
Volume
was Volume 2
1 From Earth with Love is the...
From Earth with Love.
Released in 2021.
I'm not seeing that.
That's the 9th studio album by Coldplay.
Music of the Spheres.
Yeah, it's part of the Music of the Spheres, but the full name is Volume 1 From Earth with Love.
Okay.
It's very confusing. I don't like the titling. They should just stick with one name for an album. That's stupid.
I know. Like, even like Weezer's, like the Seasons, like it was such a good idea. Yeah. Like it's such a good concept for album names, but they fucked it up. But we're not talking about Weezer today. We're talking about Coldplay. So I actually enjoyed Coldplay. Like when they started off, I thought, what the heck's Rush to the Blood of the Head is by far their best album. Obviously Parachutes is iconic, but X and Y is just as good as Rush of Blood to the Head. But then they kind of started becoming a little bit more like poppy with more synths, and it just kind of got away with what they were kind of going for before, kind of like this indie feel, which I dug about them. Now I recently saw an interview with Chris Martin, and it kind of pissed me off a little bit because he was, and here's where I have a problem with this.
Okay.
Because he was saying that they want to be like the Beatles and only come out with so many albums. Like, how many albums did the Beatles come out with? Like
11.
11.
I think.
So they were saying that they're not going to push it beyond whatever the number was that the Beatles came out, because it's like the Beatles knew when to leave and when to like perfection. I'm like, true. I don't think that's how it worked, but it was just the arrogance of comparing themselves to the Beatles, which pissed me off.
12.
It was
Sorry, the Beatles had 12 studio albums. Yes.
So he mentioned something is like they think that they're only going to do 12 albums and then that's it, and then call it, because they want to be, they want to leave when they're high, because that's when kind of like the Beatles stopped, right? And I was like, okay. First of all, I wouldn't compare your music to the Beatles because that's like saying like I am God. I am just as good as God. So already like that. I watched that interview before I even looked at this album. It kind of like I was like, okay. So I will have to say I actually enjoyed parts of this album and I thought it was really cool. I thought that the opening, like the opening song, Moon Music, it was kind of a cool like. Mm-hmm. It was almost like you were watching it was like a cinematic adventure, but for your mind.
Yeah.
Which was neat. So, and I loved that like kind of like heavy synth, and it kind of feels like you're in space, and then that piano, da 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 da. And I was like, this is cool. Yeah. I'm like, is Coldplay gonna come back here and be good? So I enjoyed it. Then it kind of lost me when you had the song "We Pray" in it. Because I just felt like it didn't fit, and I know you're probably gonna say something that I'm gonna think about and change my mind to, but yeah, overall it was definitely like, I wouldn't say these songs are very like, hey, I have a great single here. I would say that like you'd have to listen to this album in its entirety to understand what it is.
Yes.
Like it's a concept album. It's not like, and even for the singles off this album, like I don't even think that you should have technical singles on this album, because it kind of all flows together to tell the story.
Yes. Yeah. For sure. It's the best way I could describe this album. It's like, it's more of a soundscape than individual songs, which I
Hmm.
really appreciated when I listened to it. Now, let me start off with I came into this album a bit differently than you because I don't really like Coldplay. Like I know their stuff, but like I'm not really a fan of them. I don't really care for their music outside of my maybe like Yellow and The Scientist. I think are like really good songs, but like I couldn't care about this band. So I was fully expecting to really hate this album when I went into it. And I ended up really liking this album. I really enjoyed listening to this album.
Hmm.
So I agree with you. The opening track, Moon Music, like I wish they recorded this in spatial audio because it would have just been so much better. Cause like
Hmm.
in this song, it's really like atmospheric. It's very visual in terms of the soundscape that they're creating, but I feel like it's a bit limited with just the left and right stereo soundscape that they have. If this was done in spatial audio, I feel like it'd be just like the craziest thing you've ever listened to.
Hmm.
But it's a great intro. Like I think if you go into this thinking there's going to be like a hit song or like a catchy thing in it, probably not the best way to approach this album. It's very much like this is sort of like a vibe album where you go in and it's just like it starts off in one place and it just gradually gets to a different one. Because I
Hmm.
think the feeling that I sort of got on this is like you start off with this world that is sort of messed up, like there's problems in this world, and that's sort of how the album starts. And then by the end, when you get to the last track, it sort of like becomes a better day. Everything's a bit more positive. So I think it takes you through that emotional roller coaster really nicely as an album, um, which I really appreciated. That's sort of why I really like this album from front to back,
Hmm.
because I feel like they actually wrote an album instead of writing songs. Now, in saying that, there's a few songs on this record that I'm like, I don't know about these. I sort of agree with you on the We Pray song, the third track, because they
Hmm.
pull in some hip hop artists on this. And obviously, Coldplay is a British band, so they're going to be using British hip hop artists. I didn't know if it quite fit in the overall album. I did like it. I did like the song itself, but I don't know if it fit completely on this album. And then there's a few songs on this that I feel like was too much trying to be popular with today's music in terms of like doing that disco feel, because like a lot of the songs that are on the radio right now have that old school disco beat or disco
Hmm.
feel to them. And I feel like that might be the producers on this record that are really influencing that, trying to make it sound more modern. So I wasn't crazy about the songs that were more disco on this record either. But whenever this
Hmm.
thing just like is just a super quiet part and it's like just a soundscape that you're listening to, it's not even like specific notes, it's just a wash of sound. It's just like, oh wow, I can't believe like they were able to like make this sound uh keep it interesting also, because the problem with a lot of ambient music is like it's in the background, it's sort of like you fall asleep to it. But this one, it's
Hmm.
like there was a tension and release in the soundscape, so I was like, oh, this is actually like really well done. Uh,
Which I do. I tend to agree with you there because I was listening to this and I remember thinking this is an album where I would just love to close my eyes and it's like let your imagination kind of
yeah.
take you on this wild ride. But it's like almost like reading a book, like you're imagining these characters in your head,
Hmm.
but it's like which I thought was cool, right? So I wouldn't even think that you would need anything visual behind this album. Like you can just
Yep.
literally close, like put yourself in a dark room and listen to this.
Yeah. 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 So like I don't know, from an album perspective, I really liked it. I thought it sounded great. From an individual song perspective, there's definitely songs that I would have left off this record. But then it's only a 43-minute record with 10 tracks, so I don't know.
Hmm.
You sort of need to fill it in with other stuff. But yeah, I just really like this, and I'm actually pleasantly surprised because like I was not expecting to like a Coldplay record.
Um, I wish that like I got a little bit excited when I heard that first song, Moon Music,
Mm-hmm.
because it kind of played into their old style. And I was like, this is Coldplay. this is Coldplay with a little bit of a cool like ambient twist. Um, I still think We Pray. Sure, you want to incorporate like hip hop artists, go ahead, but it just doesn't fit the vibe of this album. It just
Yep.
took me. It literally ripped me out of the world of that,
Hmm.
which was annoying. I liked Moon Music and Jupiter. I think that they're the best tracks on the album. But I just want more piano. I
Right.
wish there
Yeah.
was more piano. And yes, you could say, well, he's using synths. Sure. But Coldplay is the piano part of it, right? Like the da
Hmm.
da 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 da. I'm not saying like write another clocks or write another whatever. Like just be true to yourselves,
Right.
right? So I just felt like this is another one of those Coldplay that's not Coldplay
Yeah. No, that's a
albums.
good
Like this
point. Like
is
the piano
so.
is a important part to the Coldplay sound. Like even on a song like Rainbow or One World, when the piano comes in, it's just like it's so nice to listen to. Like I'm
Mhm.
so surprised that like the piano just like shines whenever it shows up.
I know, and it should be more of it. I think it should be more of it because he has this way of like, it's very simple, but
Yes.
it's like it's just like very subtly like in there. That's like it's not too heavy in your face, but it's very noticeable,
Hmm.
but it's simple,
Yeah.
right? So I wish it was more of that,
Yeah.
and I think that's why I hate new Coldplay because it's like, come on, come on, Chris Martin, you can play the piano, play the damn piano.
Yeah, that's sort of the annoying thing about Coldplay is like it there's too many cooks in the kitchen where
Mhm.
there's so many it's being pulled in so many directions, and obviously a lot of people are pulling it to be the popular music that's on the radio all the time. But if they just really like dug into it and made this whole album like the first track Moon Music, I think this would be like a freaking
Mhm.
masterpiece, right? Like no one would listen to it. It would never show up on the radio or be like the biggest selling
Mhm.
record of the year or anything. But artistically the album would be just like amazing.
Mhm.
Apparently the budget for this album was 35 million British pounds.
Are you kidding me?
Apparently that's how much they spent on this record.
That
It's
is not
outrageous. It's
a
outrageous.
35 million British pound sounding album. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's so expensive. Like I don't know why they spent that much money, but apparently there was
They
like
got
a whole
ripped
legal
off.
dispute with their manager and stuff, so it was in court documents that the budget for this was 35 million British
That is
pounds.
crazy. That is not worth making. Like that is not enough money to make this album. I'm sorry.
I mean, like I don't know how many producers are on this record, but I assume there's like 5 or 6 or 7. If you pay a million each, that's already 5 to 7 million just for the producers.
That is fucked.
Yeah, Chasing Dragonfly says that's so much money. Yeah, it's a ridiculous amount of money.
Jesus.
But whatever. Coldplay have like millions of dollars. They're fine. They're fine.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it though. That's another pretentious thing. Like, oh yes, I'm gonna throw. Like, I feel like I would have abandoned the project by now. Like, if it was like, okay, this is getting high for our budget.
um,
Mhm.
but yeah, like I don't know. It's an album that I'm going to continue thinking about for rest of this year, potentially next year also, because there is something special that's going on with the record. Definitely not a perfect record because there are definitely parts where it pulls you out of the story, but when it hits, it hits real hard. So I think it's really
So
good.
another issue I had with this album, and going back to the songs, is it felt like some of them were forced,
Yes.
especially lyrically. Like We Pray, it sounds like, okay, you just paid us $10 million just to make this song. And that's what I feel like. They're literally like wasted. That blows my mind. Sorry. But it felt just so like not authentic. It just felt so factory that
Yes.
it's like I like if I was going to have these British hip hop artists, like I would actually want their authenticated self because like honestly, I had to question. I'm like, this sounds like T Pain a little bit on this album, right? Just because of the auto tune.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so um,
Uh-oh. I lost Eric
there
for
are a
a
couple
brief
albums this year.
second. Oh, he's caught
Oh,
up.
hello.
He's catching up. He's slowly catching up now.
Oh, now your voice sounds like Barry Manilow.
Yeah, your voice sounds like it's coming through a 1920s radio.
Okay, well, I don't know what the hell happened there.
That's okay. Just
Here, let me turn it off and turn it back on again.
okay. Anyways, we're
Hello.
still sound the same. It sounds like you're underwater.
Sounds like I'm underwater.
Oh, now you're muted. Now you're completely gone. See, at this point, I can't hear Eric anymore.
Hello.
Oh, there he is. I think you're back.
Hello.
Yes, you sound good.
Okay. Um. So the point I'm trying to make is I would want more authenticness from these artists instead of making a song like We Pray, which is just very factory made. Whereas Moon Music at Jupiter, I felt like even Good Feelings, they had that vibe of just like it was very, very authentic and what was being sung. And it was like I could feel the artist's emotions.
Right.
Whereas like We Pray, it was like, oh cool. We pray, la 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 rah rah, yay. It's like, okay, like thank you for that.
Yeah, like I don't know where the songs don't follow the traditional verse chorus. I feel like are the best songs on this record. Like even Rainbow, there's parts where it's like the second third of the song doesn't even match the first third of the song, but somehow it still works. Like I don't know. There's a lot on this record that is hit and miss, but like some of the stuff is just like really good. All right, Eric. Final thoughts and ratings
Yes.
before
And it shines very well.
yeah.
Eh,
Oh, maybe I'm super delayed on his end.
Oh, I feel like I'm behind on the audio here.
Oh, how back?
Yeah,
One,
you must
two,
be.
3, 4. 1, 2,
Okay,
3,
2,
4.
3, 4.
Yeah, not that delayed. It's fine. All right, Eric, give me your thoughts and ratings, and
Not
I'm
that
not going to
delayed. Okay.
interrupt you because of the lag.
Final thoughts and ratings. Okay, I don't know what's going on anymore with the audio, but final thoughts and ratings. I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10. Um, this album could have been a 9. It could have been a 9 if they got rid of just the trash, and I stand by that.
Wow, 6 out of 10. It's pretty low, but okay. Yeah, Chasing Dragonflies. It sounds normal. So basically, what's happening right now? You know how on like live TV, where the news reporter that's in studio starts talking, and they shoot it to the person that's on the field, and the person on the field is just standing in front of the camera for like 5 seconds, just waiting for the audio to bounce back. Then they start talking. That's what's happening right now. Eric is like 5 seconds behind everything I'm saying. So we'll just deal with it. We're at the end of the podcast. It's fine. We'll live with it. Yeah, 6 out of 10. Fair enough. Fair enough. I am going to give this record I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, despite all its flaws, despite the songs that I feel like were terrible on this record. There is just something special about this record that they hit at certain points on the record that I feel like they should explore more. I don't think they're going to because they probably lost a lot of money on this record. But if they were to just focus in on those like Moon Music, One World, Potentially All My Love. Like those songs, like it would just be such a good artistic record. It'd be so good. But anyways, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Eric has given it a 6. But yeah, that's it. Eric, you're gonna catch up in 5 seconds. But anything to add, I'll give you the floor, and then we'll close it off.
I really do hope that they, like you said, explore what's good about this album, because I think they have something unique here that's a kind of a mixture of an old Coldplay, but mixed with like modern of what's going on. And I would love to have them explore that and rather not, you know, factorize this album.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay, perfect. So that is our discussion on Coldplay's Music of the Spheres Volume 2, Moon Music, or in short, Moon Music. I feel like they need to freaking figure out this titling, but anyways, Moon Music by Coldplay. For those of you following along with us every single week, the album that we are going to be discussing, and it's going to be a fun one, I feel like, is A Whole New Sound, a Disney record full of punk pop hits. It's going to be hilarious. So they just got a bunch of punk pop bands to cover Disney songs. So A Whole New Sound. This is going to be a hilarious record, I feel like. But yeah, that's the one we're going to be discussing. Chasing Dragonflies. What? Yeah, it should be fun. Anyways, that's the podcast for this week. We're here live at twitch.tv/the Crossroads Music Podcast. We are actually going to be taking a break next week. I'm on holidays, so I don't want to lug around all this equipment with me. And I'm sure wherever I'm going, the lag will be worse than it is right now on this podcast. So not a good idea. So we're going to take a week off next week. But we'll be back here in 2 weeks' time, twitch.tv/the Crossroads Music Podcast. I should have probably looked up if we're on a Monday schedule or on a Wednesday schedule. Eric, feel free to, once you catch up, throw in a Monday or Wednesday based on our openings. But
Monday.
Okay, so we're going to be here on twitch.tv/the Crossroads Music Podcast in 2 weeks' time on Monday at 10 p.m. ET, 7 p.m. PT. Catch us on Spotify, Apple Music, all the places where you get your podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Chasing Dragonflies, thanks for tuning in again. Catch us on YouTube, Discord, yell at us there. And let us know if you hear this record. If you liked it, if you hated it, if you agree with us, if you didn't agree with us. We'd love to hear your opinion on it. But that's it for another week, and we will catch you all next time.